Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, our first meeting of 2025. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of any interests under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. If so, disclose them now. Hearing none, we'll move along to the minutes. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. With the minutes of the Town of Minto, December 17th, 2024, regular council meeting be approved. All in favor of the motion? I've got a resolution moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the Town of Minto convenes into committee of the whole. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have no public meeting today, and we have no delegations. But we're up to public question period. And
And we have public.
the mayor, as chair of this meeting, has a duty to preserve order and maintain decorum throughout the meeting. Although council strives to hear and be responsive to resident concerns in order to preserve order, maintain decorum, and comply with the town's procedure bylaw, I wish to caution any participants in question period that, number one, questions that use discourteous language will not be permitted. Questions to seek policies or bylaws outside of the town's jurisdiction, including policies or bylaws that might violate human rights legislation, will not be permitted. Anything that constitutes speeches or statements not in the form of a question will not be permitted. Repeat questions will not be permitted, including the repetition of questions from prior meetings. All persons shall be limited to no more than 2 questions. So, anybody in our chamber today that wants to pose a question? Roger, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Happy New Year to you.
Well, Happy New Year.
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Is this on?
I think you have to push the button. The green light will come on.
Okay,
It's
it's
on.
on. It's on. Name's Roger Natchuk, and I got a question on your new schedule for amended fees for the water. I was wondering, how come you guys are putting up the water fee so much higher? Because I noticed the sewer charges, there's over 10% increase. That's more than inflation rate. Why are you putting up so high when we just had an increase in our water?
Do we have somebody in the house that can answer that? Treasurer Duff.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. That increase was all scheduled out in our last water and wastewater financial plan, which we did just about 5 years ago. And the bylaw that reflects the 25 is just following the schedule in there.
Well, can that be changed to accommodate for the price everything is so inflated high right now, that you can cut that down so we don't have to suffer so much on our water bills?
We're on a cost recovery basis, and those are the amounts that the previous study determined that we had to do for cost recovery. And as you probably heard, we're doing our updated water and wastewater financial plan and rate study in 2025, so it will all be looked at again.
So this is not the final result that is on this amendment sheet.
That's the fees for 25. Anything that we do in 25 will come into effect in 26 for another 5-year period like that.
So these fees are for next year then?
No, they're for 25. So
Roger, I'm
this
sorry,
year now.
I think you're at the 4th question.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gord, for answering those questions. Every municipality that has a water, wastewater system in Ontario are pretty well under the same guidelines. So we hire an outside source to help us with that, with those rates. And that's the way they are. So other questions? Good afternoon.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon, Mayor and Council. My question is, being that everything is going up,
Would you tell us who you are, please?
oh, sorry, Laura Park,
Thank you.
okay. My question is, like, everything is increasing so much the young people, how are they going to afford a house with everything, mortgages and car payments and everything? And everything just keeps going up, and we have to look to the younger generation and we have to give them hope, because if you're working at Tim Hortons, it's impossible and the rent is so high. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does somebody want to respond to that? It's definitely on our minds all the time here in Minto with affordable housing, prices of everything. And we have a report a little later today that can maybe answer some of those, Councillor Anderson. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move along to correspondence. So I have a motion, recommendation moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the council receive the correspondence as information. We have a few here. Number D, I'd just like to respond to D, the Minto Mapleton Health Professional Recruitment request for support and funding for the community physician recruitment initiatives. And we do have $10,000 in the budget there, and I'll ask our treasurer. Do you want a few words, Gord?
Sure.
Treasurer Duff.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. As you know, the Town of Minto Council has been a longtime supporter and contributor to the Health Professional Recruitment Committee and all their efforts. And we have included this request in our 2025 budget that we passed just before Christmas. And I'm sure the members of the health team would be happy to give us an update at some future meeting too.
Thank you, Treasurer Duff. Our hospitals are extremely important to us, and we need doctors, physicians, nurse practitioners, frontline workers, nurses, and yeah, that's $10,000 of money well spent every year, and our communities well looked after, I believe. So the other item is E, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, to do with the Municipal Accountability Act in 2024. And Clerk McRobb, do you have anything you want to speak on this, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Mayor Turton. So this has been a long time coming that it's been worked on. I know that AMCTO reported back to the ministry back in 2021 in regards to this. There was 11 recommendations provided from AMCTO. We've had other correspondence in regards to this. The Women of Ontario Say No is a part of this as well. I think it is a good start. I think it's something that is required, having that code of conduct and having rules for everyone to follow. So that's up to council. If they wish us to give you further information on it, we'd be willing to bring a report forward to you. Otherwise, it's just for information.
Everybody has taken a few minutes, I'm sure, to read this one. It definitely has been all over AMO and FCM. It, for some reason, we're having a little trouble moving it along, but do we want, thank you very much, Councillor Potnovitz.
Yes, one is bring out H with the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority.
Okay, can you just hold on that for a second?
Yeah.
We'll deal with this other one. Do we want to, thank you, Councillor Elliott.
I'd make a motion if that's necessary to have our clerk bring back information that would help our council make a decision how we move forward.
Thank you. Can we have a seconder for that? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. We'll vote on that in a few minutes. Is that okay?
Sure.
Councillor, or sorry.
So the motion would be that the council of the town of Minto request the clerk to bring a further report in regards to the introduction of proposed Municipal Accountability Act 2024 at the next council meeting.
That's perfect.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
so you would just need a vote on that one.
Everybody understand what we're voting on? Okay, all in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you. Councillor Potnovitz.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Curtin. Just a couple things from our last Maitland Valley Conservation meeting, board members. The watershed strategy that Bill presented to your council back in the fall was approved and it has been submitted to the Ministry of Natural Resources. And just want to let you know that the Ministry of Natural Resources is further extending the freeze on fees for planning and development and permitting. So it kind of affects Maitland Valley Conservation in regards to raising the fees, I guess, to reflect user pay. They can't raise the fees because they're going. So that's why you'll probably see a little increase in the Maitland Valley contributions.
That's for 2025. I believe we've got that letter, Treasurer Duff.
Yes, we have that for both the Saugeen and the Maitland Valley. And again, that's reflected in our 25 budget.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you for that report. Councillor Partnovitz, go ahead. Councillor Berkson.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I was just wondering about item A. Is that something that the county, the OPP would appreciate some support on or not?
Town of Cobalt, catch and release, justice in Ontario.
Nothing to do with fish, but it sounds like it.
Sorry?
It's an interesting terminology, but yeah, I didn't know whether that was something that the county would appreciate some support on or not. Maybe that's something we could find out.
Any other thoughts on that? How do you want to proceed, Councillor Dirksen?
Did you wish for us to request information from the OPP on this, or?
I would just ask if there was any,
Or to just?
if the county is looking
support.
for any support.
So
Or
to
if
ask
the
the-
OPP is looking for any support on that.
Sure. We could make a motion, if I may, that the council of the town of Minto receive the information and further that they contact the OPP to see if they wish to have support.
Yeah,
or-
sure, something like that. Sure,
Does that make sense?
that makes sense. to
Are you
me.
moving that, Councillor Dirksen?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Anderson? Okay. Then let's vote on this one. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Anything else? Hearing none, then we'll vote on the correspondence that we received the correspondence. All in favor of that motion? That's carried as well. Thank you. Moving into the committee minutes for approval. We'll ask our Director of Economic Development, Belinda Wick-Graham, to discuss the minutes of the December 12th DEI meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So the DEI committee held a meeting prior to Christmas on a very snowy night in December, virtually. We had a great presentation from a group of ladies from the Community Resource Center. So they were filling us in on all the great programs that they offer in Centre and Northern Wellington, and then further dove into the coldest night of the year event. I think we did speak about that briefly at the last council meeting, but it's taking place on February 22nd at 4 p.m. at the Hairston Arena. You can walk 2 kilometers or 5 kilometers. I think there's about 9 teams registered so far. They're looking for 20 teams, and the DEI committee will be participating with the team. So if anyone's interested in joining us or putting in your own team, we encourage you to do so. And you can reach out to them, and I've shared the attachment in this report as well. We also elected our co-chairs at this meeting. So Yokley Vanderkop and Brittany Rise both expressed interest in chairing this committee and were keen to be co-chairs. And the committee has put forth that recommendation within the minutes that they co-chair this committee. We reviewed guest speaker ideas. Every meeting we have guest speakers on a variety of topics, including homelessness, food insecurity, newcomers to our community, LGBTQ2+, quite a variety of topics, Indigenous issues, etc. So we have quite a list put together for the year that we'll be inviting people to come and speak. We did plan on going through our action plan review and allocating our budget. Due to the conditions being online, we didn't feel it was the best meeting to do that. So we will be doing that at our meeting next week. And then we set up all of our dates for meeting in 2025. That's it. If there's any questions?
Questions for Belinda? Correct me, Rob, you were on that website today. Are we still at 9 teams? Did you say 9?
It looks like we actually have 14 teams for Minto, which is great. So, so far 8 of them have garnered some money already. So money are being raised. That's great.
I'm sure everybody is aware of what the initiative on that sponsorship. It's for homelessness, people that are struggling in our communities. It's put on by the Community Resource Center of Wellington County. So if there's no other questions, all in favor of that, sorry, I didn't read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Dunson, second by Councillor Dirksen, that Councillor Minto receives the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee minutes of December 12th, 24 for information and approves any recommendations contained therein. No questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you very much. We have staff report. We have Councillor David Anderson with us today. He's going to give us a report on homelessness and low-income residents in the County of Wellington. Welcome, Councillor Anderson.
Mayor Turton, thank you, and Deputy Mayor and Council and staff and residents. Thanks for having me up and giving an opportunity of giving an update just on where we're standing for social services. And I have 2 reports in front of you, but I'm going to talk about both of them together. I'm going to link them together because they are virtually tied together. I'm going to give you, first of all, an update. Our social services governance structure has changed a little bit as of this last in 2024. We are now called the Joint Social Services and Land Ambulance Committee. We've expanded our basically our committee to incorporate the city of Guelph. We always had the mayor of Guelph sitting on this committee, but now what we've done is we've got now there's 3 individuals from the city of Guelph. So there's 2 councillors and the mayor. And then the other half is made up of county councillors. So myself, I've chaired this committee for 12 years. And then we have 2 other members that are sitting on from the county that's on this committee. The way the governance structure was set up is that starting this, actually tomorrow is our first joint services meeting. I will be vice chair of this committee. And what will happen is the councillor from the city of Guelph, which is Linda Busatil, will be the chair for 2 years. And then every 2 years, the chair will change from county to city to city to county. So it's been a learning experience for both sides, and but we're working very well together. And and we're always with social services, and everybody hears an awful lot about what's happening with the encampments and with Ontario Works and stuff like that. And we're always busy trying to improve the structure for our citizens that need that. So I'm going to first talk about the inadequate Ontario Works assistant rates. So what happens is that in Wellington County in the city of Guelph, there's been a raise of about 1% above the pre-pandemic levels in 24 and 25, which basically means that there's on 295 cases in Wellington County and the County of Wellington, with over 3,420 individuals that are relying on Ontario Works. And what that does is Ontario Works, what they're relying on is they're relying on extra support services, which would be prescriptions, glasses, dental support, transportation, rent subsidies. And that's the type of support that they're looking for. The issues that we're talking or dealing with is the Ontario work rates are always set by the province. And these rates were set in 2018. So they haven't changed since 2018. So in your report, there's a guideline there. And if you quickly go through that, it tells you different thresholds. So I'm going to touch a little bit on a single income for a family. So if you make more than $36,000 a year, for instance, hypothetically, and you're supporting a family member and children, because you're making $36,000, you're making too much money to be able to get those extra services that Ontario Works are offering. And again, back to your question about how do we support young people? All right. If they're making $36,000 or more, nobody can survive and support a family on $36,000 a year. So what happens is you're buying basically your food, you're buying your incidentals, but what might happen is you're not going to be able to afford the rent. And if you get backlogged in rent, after a time, your landlords are going to kick you out on the streets and you're going to be homeless and you're going to be in the shelter system. So we've had a couple of delegations to the different ministries in Ottawa and in Toronto. And our last delegation was up in Ottawa. And that was with he was a parliamentary assistant, Minister of Children and Community and Social Services. His name was Logan Canapathy. And we submitted this same report that you have seen today and written. And what we need these rates to be increased because they haven't been touched in a while. For instance, that $36,000 income fee, the staff in Ontario Works and Social Services believe that should be $55,000. And all the rates should be doubled up. And the government are ignoring us and increasing those rates, which would add, if they did increase those rates, it would give all the more support to the people that need it and keep people in their homes. And it would generate a whole bunch of positive things. You know, they would be able to buy adequate food. There would be food security. They'd be living in better health styles. You know, they wouldn't be under the pressures of day-to-day living. So it's like when we have these basically delegations, I've had an opportunity to talk to other municipalities in Ontario, and they're all in the same boat. I had an opportunity to compare our presentation to other municipalities like the city of Cornwall, and our presentation was identical to theirs. Another article, if you read a little further in this document, if you're homeless, or if you're in a shelter system or you have a temporary address, you're allowed so much a month to help support yourself. But if you do not have an address, you do get from the provincial government, this is all funding from the provincial government, I think it's $385 a month. 343, sorry, thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. So what that does is it just lets you survive. You'll never get out of this unless those rates are changed and increased. So what we're trying to get to the province is you either increase these rates at a very low cost to the taxpayers. If you don't increase these rates, what it's going to cause is more people to be unsheltered and in our shelter system. And then it's going to cost more money to support people in an unsheltered system. And being unsheltered also causes so many other things. Mental health and addictions also comes with that. So that's our plight. We have a delegation, Roma conference is coming up this, I think it's January 17th, 18th, and 19th-ish in Toronto. We already have a delegation that's been accepted by the Minister of Municipal Affairs. We're going to initiate another proposal to them, and hopefully they will listen. I hope out of that meeting, what I would like to see, because you only have 15 minutes when you get a delegation, I would like to make an appointment that we go down to Toronto and we'll take our MPPs and the Mayor of Guelph and the Warden of the County and some of our Social Service Committee, and we'll be able to talk to the Minister and staff to try to see if we can move on this. So it's a never-ending battle. And the problem with it is it's affecting people's lives. They don't increase these rates. So that's a little bit about the Ontario Works program. We've got great staff. They're easy to talk to. They know their stuff, but it's a continual fight on that. Moving into the next response, before we talk about my winter response plan, what we did was we had a symposium last February, social services, and what it invited all the people that were dealing with people with homelessness and mental health addiction. And what we've done is we have formed, it's called the Wellington Guelph Health and Housing Community Planning Table. And what it's done, it's brought everybody to the table. So the County of Wellington is there, and I represent that along with staff. There is representation from the City of Guelph. from Homewood, from Guelph General Hospital, from Wellington Healthcare Alliance, from the Rural Wellington Health Community Team, Wyndham House, Stonehenge, Stepping Stones, Waterloo Wellington CMHA, and the Dufferin Wellington Guelph Health Unit. So what has happened is this team, we are looking at, it was kind of funny, before this team was developed, everybody was doing their own little thing. The Minister of Health was getting funding, Social Services was getting funding, and it wasn't allocating the funding. There was a lot of overlap, and it wasn't being properly spent and properly invested in the people that needed it. So what we're doing is, this group was just formed last April. We meet monthly. And one of the directives in this group is to coordinate outreach response to people that need it, encampment checks, and daytime hubs to make sure that the people that are in need of support are getting it. The city of Guelph have given this group $500,000 to help the people in need at the point in time. And also, so we're using that money to give assistance to that. We've also established this, again, the widow response plan. And what I've done today is I've given you, this date was, this response that the first report was September 11th. I've given you an updated report that's actually in tomorrow's agenda in our social services meeting. So you are getting this, a look at this report before the committee gets it. So, and it's public knowledge, so we can talk about that. It hasn't been passed or anything, but it gives you just a little bit of what's happening in the last couple of months of that. So in this response, what happens is that initially, this was all supposed to be funded by the provincial and federal government. That's the responsibility of mental health and addiction and homelessness. And the issue is everybody is wanting the same amount of money. We as social services, who are basically a service provider for the city of Guelph and the county of Wellington, are just the managers. And we can only deal so much with the amount of funding we get. So what we've done is there's a thing called the by name list. And again, every 3 years we do a study, and we go out and we this is through not only the city of Guelph, but also the county of Wellington. Anybody that's homeless or doesn't have a place, we contact them and we ask them if they would give us their name and maybe where they're from, and if they have any issues or any help that we can help them with. Not everybody responds, but it gives us an idea of the people that are in need of this service. It is a federal funded support service. We would like to do it every year, but we don't have the money to do that again. And this, I think it's March or April this year, we're going to be doing another by name list update. The reason why that by name list is so instrumental and good to have is because when people are looking for shelter, we give the people on the by name list the first opportunity to get into shelter spaces. And so what we have is in Guelph, Wellington, over the past 3 years, there's approximately 93% of the individuals on the by name list are experiencing sheltered homelessness, and approximately 7 are on the by name list, they're experiencing unsheltered homelessness. And that 7% is basically the people that are in encampments and tents that are not housed and sheltered. So on this emergency plan we put together, what we do is we've opened up spaces, and the funding for this, which in the amount, it's $662,300, that is paid by our taxpayers, right? That's not federal funding, that's not provincial funding, that's our taxpayers that are paying for that, because we're dealing with humanities, people in need. So the way it's broken down in social services, because there's more people in the city of Guelph that use their services, the city of Guelph pays a higher rate than we do as the county of Wellington. So that fee there, the county of Wellington of that fee pays $66,200, and the city of Guelph pays $596,100. And so that's pretty well how the major split, even in housing, that's how the split goes. Because there's even though a lot of people are homeless, there's a lot of people come from the county of Wellington that go to the city of Guelph because there's more services there. We just don't have the services here. So the individuals that are experiencing homeless from October 1st, this emergency winter response team, it goes from October 1st through to March. What would happen is if you're on the by name list that you can get into, we have the Norfolk Manor, which is right on the main street of Guelph, or we also have a shelter system on 23 Gordon Street, and it's available for emergency situations. people are in these places now. The neat thing about the, if on the basically the Norfolk accommodation now, we've opened it up that it's a low barrier system that allows singles and couples to be there. And also if you have pets, they allow pets to be in there. So you, in this place, you have your own little room and it allows you to get off the street. A lot of the issues is that in both places, on 23 Gordon Street, which is shelter, and on Norfolk, they're not fully utilized. There's space available for people that can be in there. And when it's cold, 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 there's 65% is occupied. So there's 35% that still people can go in. There's an awful lot of people that still do not want to be housed. They don't want to go in to houses. And there's people that want to stay in their tents through the wintertime. So through this program, what we've done is we have established, we have purchased basically their intangibles. So we have tarps and sleeping bags, pillows, warm clothing. We have food, we have water, and we have individuals that are part of this community planning table that will go out to people in encampments and ask them, is there something you would like? Is there something you need? And they're developing relationships with these individuals because most of these people don't trust anybody. They don't want to go into housing. They don't want to be warm. They want to, this is their world. They want to live there. So in the cold, cold parts of the winter, we want to make sure that they're surviving and we'd have this program in place. The issue is, and if you look at the second report that again just has come out, it gives you the numbers of people that are utilizing this program. Another thing we do is if people do not want to get into the shelter system, we will put people up in the motels and we will pay for that under the funding we're submitting this out. Your last report, it has a breakdown on the bottom part. From October, it basically indicates that there were 2 people from the county of Wellington that were homeless that were offered accommodation and nobody took that up. Where if you look at the city, there was 19 people that were offered accommodation in either Norfolk or hotels, and there were only 8 accepted of the 19 of the city of Guelph. If you look at November, from the county's perspective, we put up 26 individuals in the hotels that were people that didn't have shelter or didn't have any space to go to. And in the city of Guelph, the numbers are there, again, 8 people from the city of Guelph went to a hotel, 21 individuals they were offered to the Norfolk, or 18 accepted from the 21 to go into the Norfolk Manor. And actually we also offered, there was 3 individuals from the city of Guelph we offered transportation for. So we're trying to help those individuals. The tangibles basically cost us $19,000. Unfortunately, we didn't get them till the middle of December, right? We didn't have them in the month of November, but they're now out there. And that group that's going out to the encampments have now distributed all the tangibles out there for the people that need that. So again, this is just, it's dealing with situations on a temporary basis. But through this planning table, we're looking at long-term results. We're looking at what gaps are there in our system. And there's a lot of gaps. And those gaps are generated because just of lack of funding. We don't always want to go back to the taxpayers and say, you need to pay more in your tax base, because we have to use our tax money for more important things like water and sewer, like roads, social services. What there are numbers out there, and I've given you a list of numbers in your table. But as Gina and I know, a lot of those numbers, you will leave a message, and you'll get a maybe message saying we'll get back to you in 12 hours or 24 hours or whatever. But you may contact somebody, and it's a situation that we want to make sure that those numbers, that if you call, there's an immediate response. And you know what, if you can't call those numbers, you can be like Ron Elliott and he can just call David Anderson and ask about somebody, and we will find that out fairly soonly. So I got that call from Ron today, matter of fact, this morning. But it's, we can always get better, and there's gaps there, but nothing's perfect in this world. The fact is we've got all the major players that are dealing with people with homelessness and mental health addiction at the table now. That gives us a benefit than other municipalities have. And I'm really impressed with this group, and their whole concern is the humanity of people and getting them housed and getting them help. But not everybody that is suffering from mental health and addiction and encampments want help. And, you know, we can only do what we can do. Mayor Turton, that is my presentation, and I will leave it up to you and to try to take any questions on what's happening.
Councillor Anderson, you will take questions, will you?
I sure will.
All right. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Thanks, Dave. That was very interesting. It sounds like you have a pretty strong idea where you're moving ahead with this, and I appreciate that. I appreciate what you did today for me, for a person that needed some help in Palmerston. The question I have, dealing with a lot of the reason that people are out in the community and in tents and stuff, there's mental problems. And do you have the people that are dealing with, are they professionals? You probably need professional people to work with that, and the cost would be enormous if you're dealing with all that. How do you go about paying a professional to be there? And you probably need them 24 hours at least, I would think, if you're in an encampment of some sort.
Mm-hmm. So, answer to your question, Councillor Elliott, the organizations that I said that were part of this list about this planning board, they have staff that are trained and they're mental health clinicians. And they also will, if they're not trained, they'll go through a training program. When you're dealing with people in encampments, what you have to do is, again, I said earlier, they trust nothing. They have mistrust against the whole system. You have to start developing a rapport with them and a relationship with you, and to prove to them that you're there to actually try to help them. And again, sometimes it doesn't, you can be there as much as you want. They have to make the initial call whether they want help or not.
Right.
One thing I didn't mention on this group, there's a subcommittee out of this planning table, and what we've done is we've gone out and we've got 15 individuals that have been homeless and are sitting on this as advisory group. So they're bringing forward what they feel they need to help other people come out of it. So these are the people that have lived in that community and know the people in that community. So that's another opening for us to try to help those individuals, because we're using the group that are in this committee to move forward with that. So it's a good thing moving forward. But yeah, they're trained, and again, they're out, and we know they're out there. Again, we're showing them that this is a help that's available. If you want to help, the help, it's here. If not, like I said, the intangibles, we're delivering them to them if they need something.
Thank you.
Other questions? Deputy Mayor Anderson, go ahead.
If I could just answer that question partly. So a lot of those people end up showing up in the emergency department. Sorry. They end up in the emergency department because the police are frequently involved and they bring them there. So we have Here 24, but Here 24 is like so many of the systems we have, it's understaffed. So it used to be so we're light years from where we were. Years ago, there was nothing. There was nobody. You couldn't access anybody. You couldn't get to a psychiatrist. You couldn't get a counselor. You just didn't. We had them in emerge and we didn't know what to do with them. So they developed Here 24 to address that issue. It took a while to get their staffing up, and they have counselors who come out to our rural areas. They used to sit up in a cafe up in Mount Forest, and the folks in that community got to know that that was a sort of safe zone for them to go and approach people about mental health, social services, and talk to a counselor. If they're in this system, they have their own counselor. They have a worker, a social worker, who helps them navigate the system. If they're not in the system, and once they're homeless and they don't have that address, they lose everything. Like who comes up with a policy that somebody can live on $343 a month if you're not in the housing system? Like where are you crawling under the rock to survive on that? I don't know what government official came up with that number, but they should be part of the system for a while to see what it works like. But Here 24 is having huge issues with staffing. So they've risen to the point where they give us 24-hour coverage at the hospitals, but it's one person covering all of Wellington County. So we use Zoom, we use OTN, used to be the computer system that was set up by the province for connecting hospitals with specialists. It didn't get used for that because there's no funding formula, but it does get widely used for mental health issues, because that one person can make 4 visits if they can do it by Zoom or on OTN versus driving for 3 hours to see one person. And what they do is make an agreement with this person that they're safe for the night and arrange for a counselor to see them the following day. So for many people, it's their only access into the psychiatric health system is for it to become an emergency. They come to emerge and it at least gets them access. Because if they're going through their family doctor or channels, unfortunately, it's months like everything else is in the healthcare system now. And what do they do for the months while they wait? And they do have your impact team. Is it impact?
So the OPP,
That
yeah.
go around with the police. So if the police are called to a situation, if they think it's appropriate, they'll take an impact team member with them. They're trained in de-escalating these people and assessing the situation to determine if they're safe to leave in the situation they're in or to bring them into the hospital. But if they bring them into our little hospitals, we have very limited facilities to hold them, and we end up holding them because you literally cannot transfer them during the weekends. Nobody will accept them, nor will they accept them being brought down by family members. They need to stay in our facility until we can get OPP transfer, ambulance transfer down to the appropriate facilities, unfortunately. So we're constantly working on it. But as I have said, and David and I have many, many lengthy conversations about this, if you go through that list of numbers that's currently available, as a citizen who doesn't know, you're not going to get any help in 24 hours. You have no clue where to even start. So people know that, and they go to David because they know that he's on social services and that he'll help and that will help. But for the average person, they don't know. And that's been my plea forever. In the city, they do. Up here in the county, they do not. And we don't have a shelter. We have no shelter in Wellington County for anybody, except for the women's shelter that's organized by volunteers in Elora. We have nowhere for somebody to go, and that needs to be fixed. We need to have something up in this area. Not
So
that I feel strongly about it.
I think that one of the things that prior to this planning board, remember I said earlier that most of the services are in the city of Guelph. Moving forward, we're looking at, we do have in the near future, in 2025, two health clinicians will be up in the north part of Wellington for assistance, and we're looking at shelter system up here. I don't know whether everybody got the email. There is a webinar coming up on February 4th and the webinar is being put on by the Wellington Guelph Health and Housing Community Table Planning. It's to bring everybody up to speed on what's happening up to this point. They'll talk a little bit of what I've talked a little bit about today. I would advise, if you've gotten that email, to participate in that. I think it's an hour and a half meeting,
Something like
2
that.
hours. It's on February 4th. I'd invite all council to be part of that. I think all councils in Wellington County are getting an invitation along with the city of Guelph. So you get a lot more information from that webinar and be able to ask questions by email.
Other questions for Councillor Anderson? It's definitely an interesting topic, Dave, and 12 years on social services for yourself. I know that you're very passionate, you and your wife, and thank you for all that you do here and I know that in personal experience, it's really tough to talk people into making the phone call because people don't want, some people just don't want assistance. I mean, I think with the group that you're working within the city, having people on your group that have lived in encampments, and it's got to be a bonus for that. From the encampments to a full-time job and a home, you know, that's a long stretch. And so thank you very much on behalf of North Wellington and this council for working so hard on this, and good luck.
I'll be back sooner with an updated report.
Thank you for the information, Dave. Appreciate it. Can we have a motion to accept Dave's report, please? Thank you. There is a motion, sorry, pardon me. Yes, there is. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the Council of Town of Minto hereby receives county councillor's report regarding homelessness and low-income residents in the county of Wellington, prepared by the county councillor David Anderson for information purposes. Any other questions? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Elliott. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I'm going to turn this over to our Director of Community Services, Matthew Lubers, and he's going to talk about a topic that everybody loves is fees.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, yeah.
Sort of.
Thought you were gonna say hockey. Thanks, Councilor Elliott. So I'm here today to propose 2 new fees as well as change 2 existing fees in the fees and charges bylaw. So the new fee surrounds spring ice, something we're looking to do this April and part of May at the Harrison Arena, mainly to accommodate tryouts for Rep A and Rep B teams of the new Southeast Surge Hockey Association. The prime rate of $200 an hour and non-prime rate of $100 an hour are slightly higher than our current rates of 170 and 80 that cover the winter months. And this will help offset the increased hydro expenses that we will be incurring. As for the 2 changes to existing fees, they're to clarify the HST status of parking permits and water meters, which are both taxable and not exempt. So parking permits are $225 plus tax, and a water meter is our cost plus tax. Turn it back to you, Councilor Elliott.
Thanks so much. I also heard that Councillor Gunson's a big part of this too. You're chairman of this new hockey league. Maybe you could explain to.
Somebody had to do it, I guess. I could give a brief, I guess, a rundown of what's happening. So WA currently exists with 24 member associations. And back a couple of years ago, they came to all the members and they talked about declining numbers in minor hockey. And they talked about a mass amalgamation at one time. So they wanted teams to look at amalgamating and they didn't think that was possible. So they came up with almost like a AAA program where AAA has zones. So you can leave your member association and go try for your AAA zone. So what they did is they took the 24 associations and they made 6 zones out of the 24 associations. So we have the largest zone in zone 6. We have 7 teams. Zone 1 has 3, for instance, zone 2 has 3. So I broke it down into little geographical areas to accommodate. So what's going to happen in the spring is there'll be tryouts. So any kid from Minto can go and try out for the Southeast Surge. And they will try out for the A team. And if they are not successful, they'll try out for the B team. If they're not successful there, they'll come back to Minto and play house league hockey, which Minto's always going to have a minor hockey program. It'll just be local league or house league. It won't be rep hockey anymore. This was their resolution to keep kids in hockey. So kids that want to play meaningful hockey can go and travel and play meaningful hockey. Anybody that just wants to play hockey can stay in their hometown. So the way the tryouts work is the OHF sets out when tryouts start. So AAA tryouts have to start first. So they do all the AAA tryouts for a week. And I think that starts like late April. So once that goes for a week, then the AA tryouts go. And then anybody that doesn't make that, single A, that's where we would come into play. So it's like the first week of May or something like that. So that goes for a week and then the B tryouts happen. So within our zone, we've talked and nobody wanted to keep spring ice. And Matt was kind enough to accommodate us, I guess, or look into it. So that's how we got to where we are today. So I think we're going to try it for a year and see what we can do. But take the Southeast Surge out of it. I know there's girls programs in spring hockey that are looking for ice all the time. So I don't think there'll be a problem filling the slots at the ice time. So, and yeah, so I volunteered my time to sit on the zone committee. So yeah, I kind of get the right hand information on all this stuff. So I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a good program. So let's see what happens. So yeah, that's where we are.
What age groups is that?
U10, so 9-year-olds up to U18. So.
And everybody else, the lower A would stay in Minto.
U9 and below would all be considered, they consider that house league hockey, so they would stay in their hometowns until they get to U10.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for all kids. And at the level they can play at, I know when my grandson was playing AAA, he was one of the few that could to make it in this. At least now you're going to have an opportunity for more kids to be able to play at a higher level and at a second level and a third level. I think it's a great move, and thank you, Matt, for looking into that. I think it's important for our community to have that for our community and for our kids. Appreciate it. Okay, I'll read the motion that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report CS 2025-001 fees and charges amendments prepared by the Director of Community Services and the Deputy Treasurer for the information purposes. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto directs the Treasurer to amend the fees and charges by law 2024 to include the Community Services and Treasury Department amendments. Any more questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this new rate, it's likely indefinite. It'll stay in circulation operation indefinitely. But you said OHF, is that in Ontario
Ontario Hockey Federation.
Federation? It's a 1 year or 2 year pilot.
So I guess I should, so the Ontario Hockey Federation sets out, I guess, the schedule for everybody, but we would be covered under the WAA. So our pilot program for the surge zone is a 2 year pilot. And then after 2 years, we go back to our membership and they have to do a vote, whether we continue. So we are actually under the WA, not the OHF. It's just the OHF sets out the tryout schedule for all minor hockeys. That makes sense.
That makes sense. So year one is 2025.
2025, 2026.
So year one, we'll be doing the tryouts in 25, spring of 25 for
Fall of
25, 26.
Correct.
And so next year at this time, when we're sitting here talking about this, if we choose, we're not going to leave ice in the Harrison Arena in the spring of 26. We're bound for 1 year. True or false?
True. Yes.
That's correct. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Councilor Zimmerman.
Counselor Elliott, I'm just, so the hockey is great news. I think that's good for young kids. Gives them a little more purpose, closer to home. I think that's going to be good. Just wondering about this water meter thing. Is that, on the regard, is this retroactive on existing water meters, or is this just for new water meters? Is HST additions or?
Well, Councillor Zimmerman, basically water meters, all of them are what they call in CRA speak, a taxable supply. So it's just a clerical error. They've always been subject to HST and they're not exempt. Whereas like your regular water bill, that's specifically exempt. But if you're getting a replacement or a new meter, subject to HST.
But there's really no true increase in costs. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's a
It's
correction.
already in
of-
there. We just didn't include that.
That's
Okay.
right.
Just to clarify that. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I had one other question, Matt, in reference to the parking permits. How many do we have in Ontario, or in Ontario? In Minto, how many parking spots is there presently?
I honestly don't know that
Okay.
answer. I just know that where it was supposed to be HST taxable, it was listed as exempt. That's all. So, like I do know we've got some permits in Palmerston, but I'm not too sure about Harrison and or Clifford.
Okay,
Anybody?
thank you.
Yeah.
One more question I have for Councillor Gunson. How many kids do you expect would leave Minto or any other towns to play at this AAA? Is there a thought on that? How many would be going to AA? And
I honestly don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So I can tell you that the teams will be made up of 15 skaters and 2 goalies. If that's so, I'm assuming every parent hopes their kid can make the team, but I really don't know. So like the lads, I can tell you, we probably have 6 kids that have left and played AAA hockey. Right? So, there might be, I don't know, you're putting words in my mouth, Ron. So,
Yeah, I'm just.
there might be
what I'm-
3 or 4 kids in age
How the
group,
breakdown
right?
goes. Yeah.
Might be 3 or 4 kids in age group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
So will it depend on who the coaches are? Like
Yes.
If Jeff Gunson's,
Don't bring my name in. So what they recommend is non-parent coaches, but volunteer coaches are very, very hard to get. So, a lot of the time you're gonna see a parent has a kid playing and they're gonna put their name into coach, right? So, that will be, the biggest hurdle, I think, this year is the coaching and picking teams.
Great.
Right? Cause you have
Thanks.
7 communities coming together to try and pick a team and it will be difficult, but we're gonna do the best.
Richard. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the other question to that is, how do you determine where each level, which arena they play in?
So it's gonna rotate.
It is.
Yes,
So
that's
it's-
actually in the memorandum of agreement that the WA
Okay.
has, is that you can't just specify one arena for games or practices. It's going to, obviously they want to rotate, but I guess if one arena has more ice time to give, they're gonna get more practices or games of that arena, right? So
So the Southeast Surge, so is Arthur?
No.
Arthur's not in this,
no, they're not actually part of the WA.
right? So it goes right from Moncton to Drayton to Mount Forest, Harrison and back to Listowel.
Yes,
Like,
but
it's a big area, you're right.
Yeah.
Good how
on that though, the OHF has thrown a wrench into it and they've opened up the borders so any kid can go anywhere and play hockey. That's a whole nother conversation I don't want to talk about.
Oh, we're dealing with the, sorry to.
It's
Yes,
like, it's actually like, girls hockey now. There's no borders. You can go and play wherever.
so what happens to the Lakers and people like that? They have AAA
They'll still have a program. Those kids could go.
right there too.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Counselor Elliott, it's really kind of unique to have our own Counselor Gunson be in the chair of this whole organization and bringing this to Hairston,
Yes.
bringing it to Minto. So thank you, Jeff, and I know you said it's a volunteer position, but it's a big position. And we got a big guy doing it, so thank you for that.
Big shoulders.
And he never says no. Something he doesn't have. All in favor of this motion? All right. And I'll return the chair back to the.
We'll just move it right over to the end to Counselor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. And we have 2 items on the finance agenda this afternoon. And they are items that we do every year. If you've sat around the table very long at all, we kind of expect these every year.
That's right.
So I'll turn it over to our treasurer to take us through the first one, please.
Great. Thanks, Chair Dirksen. And as you said, you're correct. We have to do these usually the first meeting of the year. So the first one is the interim tax bylaw. So this gives us authority to issue the interim taxes. Again, they're based on 50% of the previous year. And the due dates are virtually the same as last year, the 27th of March and the 27th of May. Again, we have many options for pre-authorized monthly, quarterly payments, as well as the traditional, I guess you can mail it in now if you're feeling good, or we accept payments at the office. So again, the final rates will be done probably in the second meeting in May after the counties pass all their tax rates and all their tax policies. But this gets us through for the first half of the year.
Thank you, Treasurer Duff. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will read the recommendation moved by Councillor Podnowitz, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report finance 2025-001, 2025 interim tax levy bylaw prepared by the Deputy Treasurer for information purposes, and that further that Council of the Town of Minto considers passage of the related bylaw in open session. All in favor? Thank you, that carries. And we'll move on to the borrowing bylaw.
Yes, and once again, this is a bylaw we pass every year, especially required by our bank. And it's a good thing to have in place. We don't anticipate doing any temporary borrowing, but just in case unforeseen circumstance, we'll have the bylaw in place. And this gives us authority to temporarily borrow if we have a cash shortfall, especially until we collect the taxes.
Cool. Thank you. Are there any questions on the temporary borrowing bylaw? Okay, seeing none, I will read that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Gunston, second by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives Report Finance 2025-002, the 2025 temporary borrowing report prepared by the Treasurer for information purposes, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto considers passage of the related bylaw in open session. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. Thank you, Treasurer Duff.
Thank you.
Turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dirksen. The next item on the agenda is Clerk's 2025-001 Part Lot Control PLC 2024-01 Daniel Charles Sinkler, 255 to 315 Henry Street South, Palmerston. So I'll ask our clerk give us an update.
Yes, thank you very much. So again, this is just an updated report. This report did come to council as well as the bylaw on December 3rd, where it was passed in order to exempt part lot control for the lands. But in the meantime, as noted, an up-to-date registered plan was deposited on this property November 20th. So all in the timing, it did change then the bylaw just for the registered plan number and how it describes the property. So that's not really administrative in nature. We couldn't just change it without bringing it back to council for you to see. But this was passed in December 3rd. And again, it's just updating the bylaw to show the new registered plan number and where it covers.
Thank you. We have a recommendation moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report Clerk 2025-001 regarding PLC 2024-01 Daniel Charles Sinkler for lands being part of lots 15 and 16 north side of Victoria Street, Grain Survey, Palmerston parts 1 to 13 on 61R-22863, Town of Minto in the former town of Palmerston, Town of Minto, County of Wellington, with municipal address of 255 to 315 Henry Street South. Further, that the Council of the Town of Minto considers passing a bylaw in open session, and further, that the Council of the Town of Minto direct the staff to repeal bylaw 2024-065. Questions? Very, very straightforward. Go ahead, Councillor.
Straightforward for everybody but me.
Oh, sorry.
What's the next move? This part law control, what exactly does that mean?
So this is the part lot control that you actually passed in December 3rd, but we again had to update it. Part lot control then separate, and then properties would be able to be sold individually once that takes place.
So when this bylaw passes, now the lots are available to be sold, or there's more work to be done?
This has to go, it has to be registered on title and everything else. It's not going to happen overnight. I will forward this off to the county. It'll go through lawyers and everything else.
So all the severances have taken place for each individual.
That's what part lot control is in lieu of the severance.
All right, thanks.
Other questions? Everybody's very clear on this? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of this motion? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we are at announcements. Councillor Elliott, do you want to start?
Okay, this Saturday, the 81s are having an alumni game. Anybody that's been part of the 81s through executive or players, the 81 started in 1977. Everybody believes the 81s because it was 1981. Not true. It's because we have 81 train in Palmerston, and at that time it was Palmerston, so it was Palmerston 81s. Gary Southern was the guy that came up with that idea, and when we brought forward. So we're expecting a lot of people for over all those years to come back to visit. All alumni members will get in for half price, and we got all kinds of Palmerston 81 jerseys and stuff from the past too, and pictures, and so it's going to be a fun night. So anybody that's ever followed the 81s for years, or even enjoys hockey, I think it'd be a fun night for them to be there. And they're playing Creemore that night. It's not a game. There's not an alumni game, but the 81's hockey team is playing Creemore, so that should be a good hockey game too. So all that encompassed, I think it's been a great weekend, and more people we get out, it's the better it is for our community. It's just they've been really having great following, and be great to see a bunch of us come out to see that too. It'd be great. Thanks.
What time is that, Councillor?
7 o'clock game time. Saturday.
So the game against Creemore is a league game?
Is what?
A league game?
Yes, it
Yep.
is.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Councillor Potnovitz. Councillor Gunson.
Really don't have much, just a happy and successful new year to everybody. That's all I got.
Councillor Dirksen.
I have nothing this afternoon.
Councillor Zimmerman.
I don't have anything this week either.
Deputy Mayor.
I would just like to give a little report on our Christmas dinner. It was very successful again this year. We fed about 400 people, we figure. We raised about $4,000. Thanks to the generosity of community members and people who attended and people who just gave donations. And a huge thank you to the groups of volunteers that come out to help us, because we certainly couldn't do it by ourselves. And so we'll be looking at some way to donate that money back to the community. We haven't just decided quite what we're going to do with it this year. We do something a little different every year, but a huge thank you to everybody that gave a hand.
So is it the 9th year?
Next
Jean?
year will be the 10th, if it happens. If we keep mustering enough energy.
Yeah, well, so there's a bit of a part of it. And there's a big, huge thanks goes to you and Dave and your family. It just doesn't happen.
No, it does not.
And your organizational skills and rallying the troops in the community and getting people there to help, and just can't thank you and your family enough. 9 years of working in the same kitchen as your husband.
Yes.
And it's always nice to have some leftover food. I understand through David that that happened.
Yeah, we had a little too much stuff.
Well, it's certainly better to have a little extra than not enough.
Yeah.
So on behalf of our council and our community, huge thank you to you, and good luck next year.
I'm looking for a succession plan.
I was
if
going to
anybody
say,
has any
I was
ideas.
going to ask that. What's your succession
I
plan?
keep trying.
So I'm here to tell you that succession plans don't just happen.
I know, I keep asking.
I heard Councillor Dave Anderson was looking to take it over.
On his own,
Yeah.
okay.
David, is there anything that you want to add? I know I watched you in the council chambers at the county yesterday rallying some people down there.
Thanks, Mayor Turton. One of the things that really happened that was positive from this last year is that we were contacted last year by a church out of Kenilworth, and they looked at our blueprint and how we established it and ran our dinner, and they ran the same dinner in Mount Forest. And I think they fed 300 people.
That's what we heard was 300. They called us last year to make sure they wouldn't be stepping on our toes. And I assured them they would not. It was a Harvey Bowman. And I met with them for a couple of hours, sort of going over the rudiments. And I was hoping they would be my succession plan, that they would come and work with us for a year and then we get them to take over both communities, but that didn't fly. But I hear they had a very successful dinner.
So there's so many people that are in need, and we don't realize how lucky we are that we have what we have, because there's so many people that don't have that. So Jean and I came up with the idea that it would be great that there would be a Christmas dinner in every municipality in the county of Wellington. So we had our county budget meeting yesterday, and I was sort of planting some seeds in some mayor's pockets that, and use our plan. Like half the organization is there. It's a blueprint. It's quite simple, right, Gene?
Very.
Yeah, yep.
piece of
So,
cake.
so well, I have 2 years left in this term. So my goal in 2 years is that we have Christmas dinners through the county of Wellington in every municipality. So I've been talking to a few councilors and mayors, and I'll still continue talking and try to get some energy because there are so many people that, and you know what? What it does is it does more than just Christmas dinners. It brings the community together. People enjoy themselves. They enjoy doing what they're doing. The mayor was having a great time cutting up turkeys. It was fantastic. So it does more than just that. It generates community spirit and community involvement and togetherness. And so.
Yeah,
Anyway,
so I can tell you this, that the time that I was there, a lot of the people that were there helping, I had no idea who they were. So it just it says a lot for this whole situation, organization, that people see the need and they come and help.
If I could just add to that, so I have found over the years that the volunteers need or enjoy the dinner as much as the people who come to eat. They're people who are new to the community or who would otherwise be alone on Christmas Day. They don't want the free meal. They don't want anybody to think they need a meal, but they need somewhere to be. So it does as much for the volunteers, I have found. And I have people calling me in tears saying, I have to volunteer that day because I cannot be at home alone. Well, come on out, we'll find something for you to do, because I get more volunteers than I know what to do with, but we find something for them to do. And there's generally a pretty congenial atmosphere in the hall, except when something's blowing up or the hydro doesn't work or whatever. I think we blew the breakers again this year. But we get through all of that, but there's a real spirit of Christmas spirit there together when everybody's working together. So it's a really positive thing. As exhausting as it is, it's a very positive thing all the way around. So we encourage all of the other municipalities to join us. I'd be happy to give them pointers.
Thank you. Thanks again. Two things I just want to throw out there, and I know that one of them was brought up with the North Wellington Big Brothers and Sisters. That bowl-a-thon, that's another need for young men and women. It's happening all throughout the month of February 2025, but Minto is involved on the 2nd, which is 2nd of February, Sunday, Mount Forest Bowling Lanes, and we're on at 10 o'clock. So for some reason you can't go and you want to give a donation, you can get a slip for your income tax. And I know Councillor Anderson and myself are bowling, and I'm hoping that there's others from our staff, council possibly. So don't be shy. The other one is February 22nd, which is the coldest night of the year. Hopefully it's not coldest night, but at least the sun possibly might be up at 4 p.m. on the 22nd of February. The day could be, there could be an extra 45 minutes of, well, that's maybe 40 minutes of sun that day. So again, same thing. If you have some money you want to throw at it, there's all kinds of people around town, I think, that are in it. We're 14 teams. We're looking for 20. All you have to do is sign up on the website. Even if you walk by yourself, at least it's an initiative that has come forward through the Wellington Community Resource Center, but it's all over Ontario or Canada. Belinda, do you know that? It's all over Canada. Yeah, it's across Canada. Everybody knows the reasons for it. So, all right, thank you. Next item on the agenda then is a resolution moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Committee of the Whole convenes into regular council. All in favor of that motion? Carried, thank you. Notices of motion, anything under that heading? Okay, so resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Potnovich, that the Council of Town of Minto ratifies the motion made in the Committee of Whole. All in favor of the motion? Thank you, that's carried. Now we're into bylaws. Resolution moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that bylaws 2025-01 through 2025-004 be read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council, seal the corporation. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you. Confirmatory, moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that bylaw 2025-005 to confirm actions of the council, corporation, and town of Minto respecting a meeting held January 7th, 2025, be read a first, second, third time, passed in open council and seal the corporation. All in favor of the motion? It's carried. So I think our second meeting this month, Clerk McRob, is at 3 p.m. 2 weeks from today.
Yes, that's correct. The next meeting will be at 3 p.m. It is on our website. You could find our updated 2025 schedule there.
Okay, thank you. So resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, second by Councillor Gunson. Council Town of Minto, the Council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor of that motion? Thank you very much. Happy New Year.